Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves another busy show as we have a lot to talk about in the world of Southern California sports. As the Rams, they barely take out the Falcons. They almost blew a 28-3 lead, but they got the job done. Yeah, go figure. They almost blew a 28-3 lead. Can they get it done against the Cardinals? And will the Chargers be ready to take on the Jaguars, as Justin Herbert is still day-to-day? He's been limited in practice, but it looks like all signs are pointing to him playing. And the Angels have sadly been eliminated from playoffs. No, it's not really sadly, but they've been finally eliminated from playoff contention, as Angel fans can basically breathe a sigh of relief. The season is almost over. The pain is almost over, Angel fans. Next year, though. Also, Wave FC defeated its crosstown rival Angel City FC as they inch closer and closer to the playoffs. But for Angel City, it means that every game is now precious going forward. Margin of error is now super slim. And USC has its big challenge as they play Oregon State. Yes, Corvallis' own Oregon State will be a challenge for USC. Why? You'll have to find that out on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I hope you all are having a great Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday late afternoon, Friday wherever. Either way, you have made yourself into episode 105 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Apologies for the late start. I had a little technical difficulty starting, but it is all good. So if you are listening live, apologies in advance. If you are listening on the playback, disregard this. Without any further delay, let's get on into the SoCal sports action. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio, as this is the platform that is providing the SoCal Supreme Sports Show and my other show, Set Point. IE Sports Radio can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio, and on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar. You could also go to the website at www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you'll see a Patreon link at the top, which starts at $5 a month. This will get you a shout-out from all of our shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you, everyone, for all of your support, and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Marcus Los Great, Key to the Gate, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. Now, without any further delay, let's get on into the Southern California sports action. We obviously have to start with football just because football is king, to my dismay on Set Point, but it is what it is. So, this past week, we had the Rams taking on the Falcons, and this was kind of expected to be a win. I basically said if the Rams don't win this one, then I have major concerns about their roster, but they won. They won, but it was rather interesting to say the least. So, the fact that the Rams had to basically I wouldn't say they had to come back and win, but the fact that they nearly blew a 28-3 lead is really disgusting. I was very displeased at that. It's like I was seeing this game at lunchtime with a few of my buddies, and I was basically saying, well, why are they having such a tough time putting away the Falcons? They're up 28-3. The Falcons scored a touchdown, and then the Rams kicked a field goal. I want to say it was like late third quarter, early fourth quarter, and then the Falcons got a touchdown. Then on the Rams' next drive, they went 3 and out. Their punt got blocked, and then it was returned for a touchdown. And then, surprisingly, the Falcons went for 2, and they got it. And then on the next Rams drive, Matt Stafford threw a first down to Cooper Kupp, but Coop unfortunately fumbled the ball, and it was recovered by the Falcons. And the Falcons were in Rams territory, and Mariota was going for it all. But fortunately for the Rams, Jalen Ramsey came up big. And fortunately, the Falcons were unable to get off one final play as, it's the Falcons. I'm just kidding. But overall, it was an ugly game. And if the Rams were to have lost that one, it would have been complete irony. I don't think the internet would have let that one go away just because they almost blew a 27-3 lead against the Bucs last year. So the fact that the Rams basically needed Jalen Ramsey to bail them out, yeah, go figure, considering he had such a horrible game against Buffalo, means that the Rams still have a lot to improve on. As Larry B in the live chat room pops in, he says, yeah, that game just made the Rams very suspect. Say what you want, but that was crap. Yeah, I agree. I really thought the Rams should have won by a whole lot more, and we should have even gotten to see the backup QB put in. But unfortunately, the Rams, I don't know what happened. It's very disheartening if you ask me. So the Rams are 1-1, but at what cost? They did not cover. So overall, it was just bad. It was not a good fourth quarter for them. And the Rams really need to clean it up because this week they have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this one is going to be a 50-50 matchup for me. So the Cardinals actually had the opposite of the Rams as they looked like complete dog poo in the first half against the Raiders. And then they slowly but surely started getting it together in the second half. And then they put together a 16-point fourth quarter to eventually tie the game at 20. What was it, 2020 or 2020 or something? No, 23-23, and then they went to overtime. Cardinals won the coin toss, and they turned it over on downs. And I'm thinking, okay, well, the Raiders can't possibly screw this one up. Hunter Renfrow fumbles, but it was recovered. He fumbled one time in overtime, but then he recovered. And then the second go-around, I think it was a screen pass to Hunter Renfrow. He tried to get to the first down marker, but then he fumbled again. It was scooped up and taken in for a fumble recovery touchdown. It almost happened to be a Deshaun Jackson moment where the defender nearly threw the ball into the end zone before crossing. Because if you all remember, Deshaun Jackson, the former Ram, had a couple moments where he basically threw the ball into the end zone for a touchback before crossing the plane, as the defender nearly happened with the Cardinals, as the ball barely crossed the plane while he had possession. So I really feel that the Cardinals really lucked out on that one. And I'm surprised the Raiders blew a 20-point lead. Everyone is saying that this is the worst loss in Raiders history. Yeah, probably. I could put that on par with the Dolphins' loss back in 2020, but this isn't about the Raiders. So the Cardinals, they look solid, as Kyler Murray is good, but we also have to remember they don't have DeAndre Hopkins. And then Rondale Moore is also hurt, and it looks like he's going to be out. And then Hollywood Brown is kind of iffy. Sometimes he has his big games, and then other times he has quiet games. But I think Hollywood Brown being wide receiver 1, he has to embrace the role that he is wide receiver 1. So for the Rams, Larry says that Rams fans should be concerned. Well, yes and no. I think the Rams could handle the Cardinals, but if they play like they did against Buffalo, and if they play like they did in that fourth quarter against the Cardinals, or not the Cardinals, the Falcons, then I have every right to be concerned as a Rams fan. I think the Cardinals will give the Rams a battle, but I think the Rams can pull it out. It's just all about getting to Kyler Murray and making him scramble and panic. Because if that happens, then we already know that the Rams can feast on that. And also, Matt Stafford has to do better when it comes to taking care of the ball. He can't have multiple turnovers. He can't have fumbles. He has 5 interceptions in his first 2 games this season, and it really has me concerned. But overall, I think the Rams win this one. What's a respectable but not overly convincing score? I have the Rams winning. Let's go 28-17. That sounds about respectable. I mean, I don't expect the Cardinals to really be all out defensively. I think with Budda Baker, the Cardinals still pose a threat, but without Chandler Jones, I don't think the Cardinals pose too much of a threat defensively. I think 28-17 is a respectable score. It's fair as well. I think the Cardinals will pressure Matt Stafford into at least maybe 1 turnover, but I don't think Stafford's going to be that bad like he was against Buffalo, and I don't think he should have any more than just 1 turnover. And it's a big game for the Rams just because their schedule starts to kick up a little bit. Notice how I said the word a little bit, just because the Rams are 3.5-point favorites, but I feel the Rams, they should be more than 3.5-point favorites, just because no DeAndre Hopkins for the Cardinals, and then the only serviceable receivers, in my opinion, are Hollywood Brown or Marquise Brown and Zach Ertz. And other than that, I don't know. And then I don't know what the status is on James Conner. I feel he might play, but it might be he's sure as heck not going to be 100%. But overall, I got the Rams winning 28-17. I think it's going to be a mixture of defense and offense doing its job. I don't expect the Rams to be explosive, but if they play their cards right, they should be. The defense really has to come up big, just because they gave up 27. Okay, I wouldn't say 27, but they gave up 20, and then that blunder blocked punt really hurt them. And then also the defense gave up 31 to the Bills. So I really would like to see the Rams not giving up 20 or more points. I think 17 is respectable. I don't think it's too harsh. I think it's kind of just right for the Cardinals. Because next week, following the Cardinals game, the Rams are hitting the road to Santa Clara to take on the Niners on Monday Night Football. So that's going to be an interesting game, to say the least, just because the Niners, well, I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but Jimmy G is back at quarterback, and Jimmy G has gotten the better of the Rams more often than not. The only time Jimmy G has lost to the Rams is back last year when they lost the NFC Championship, which I kind of think it's a little mixture feelings in terms of that win, just because I feel the Rams were trying to hand that game to the Niners, but at the same time, I really thought the Rams defense stepped up, but it's just my opinion. Like, maybe Rams fans are feeling much better, but Jimmy G is going to have a whole lot. He's going to have more reps going into that game than he did against Seattle. But for the Rams, the focus is on the Cardinals this week, because if they can't get past the Cardinals, then I don't know what to say about the Niners, but we'll see. And the Rams are going to have to play the Rams are on the road for these two games, against the Cardinals in Arizona and then in Santa Clara against the Niners. So we'll have to see if the Rams can be forced out of their comfort zone and play more comfortable on the road. But I think it's going to be quite the battle. If the Rams can win both these games, it's awesome. But if they could just split between the Cardinals and the Niners, I think that's a win on its own, just because the entire NFC West is so loaded. And with Jimmy G, the fact that Jimmy G actually increases the Niners Super Bowl odds speaks to high volumes of how valuable he is and how keeping him was actually the best move for the Niners. So I think that's quite incredible, if you ask me. but I do feel bad for Trey Lance. So that's enough for the Rams. Jumping over to the Chargers. So the Chargers, they had quite a bit of time before their next game against the Jaguars, as last Thursday they played on Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs. They lost that one, but this week is a new week as the Chargers return to SoFi Stadium to take on the Jaguars. Here's the thing about the Jaguars. On paper, this looks like a gimme game right here, but the Jaguars have a whole lot better personnel than they did last year. Last year was a complete mess with Urban Meyer. But now with Trevor Lawrence in his second year looking a whole lot better, and then having a revamped roster, I don't know if this will be as easy as I thought it would be. I think the Chargers are going to have to grind this one out. I really think with James Robinson and Travis Etienne are a great running back duo. And then Trevor Lawrence obviously is a fantastic quarterback, as he has Christian Kirk and a few other receivers that he could work with as well. And then in terms of game status for the Chargers, Justin Herbert is questionable, Keenan Allen is questionable, J.C. Jackson is questionable even though he played against Kansas City. I feel that might have been the worst thing for him. I think maybe he should have sat out against Kansas City, especially since he didn't really make too big of an impact. But I digress on that one. And then Donald Parham's questionable. But even though Gerald Everett has been a good safety valve at the tight end position for the Chargers this season, but I really hope the Chargers do get to have Justin Herbert, because if they don't have Herbert, then Easton Stick time, or Chase Daniel, but overall, this is going to be quite the fascinating matchup. I said on Twitter last Thursday that these next games are must-win games, just because the Chargers have the Jaguars this week, at the Texans next week, and then they are home against the Browns. Right now, I'm looking at the Jaguars, and I don't think they're as easy as I thought they were going to be going into the offseason. I thought this was going to be a gimme game for sure, but now it's going to be quite the fascinating game. So for me, I think that the Chargers definitely can win this game, as Larry says, go Easton Stick. Yes. Easton Stick is basically North Dakota State's finest? Yes, North Dakota State's finest. But if Justin Herbert plays, I think he'll be ready, just because he's had so much time to heal up. And if this rib cartilage injury is that serious, then he wouldn't have practiced. But the fact that he has a limited amount of practice is a promising sign. I really hate that he had to get hurt in the first place. So for me, I think the Chargers, if Justin Herbert plays, I think they should be fine. If Chase Daniel or Easton Stick have to start in favor of Herbert, then we may have some problems. But for me, I'm taking the best case scenario of the Chargers having Justin Herbert, and I think it also has to depend on if Keenan Allen's playing as well, just because if not, then they're going to have to bank on DeAndre Carter, Mike Williams, Joshua Palmer, Jalen Guyton, Gerald Everett, and you get the point. So for me, I think the Chargers are going to win this one a little uglier than expected. I think they win 28-24. I think that's a respectable score, and I think the Chargers do cover. But again, it's going to be very ugly. I think it might even boil down to the last drive. But I think the Chargers' defense is what's going to win it for them. I think Khalil Mack's going to have another big game. Obviously, he had a sack, but that was the only sack that the Chargers had against Kansas City in Week 2. But I really think that the Chargers defense has to step up. I hope that, whether they have J.C. Jackson or not, I really hope that everyone else steps up, like Bryce Callahan, Michael Davis, and Asante Samuel Jr. And I understand that there were some interceptions called back, but honestly, you have to rise above that. And I understand there was a bad illegal contact call against Callahan, but it's like you have to play above that. Like, you can't just blame the refs for everything. You can only blame the refs for so much before you actually have to take full responsibility. So I think the Chargers win ugly in this one. I think 28-24 is respectable. If the defense can actually step up and make Trevor Lawrence's life a living heck, then I don't think the Jaguars will be posting 24. I think they'll probably post at least 21 at most if the Chargers defense comes alive. 17 at least, 21 if the Chargers defense comes alive. But I think 24 is respectable for the Jaguars, and 28 is a good target score for the Chargers, especially since they've scored 20-plus in their last two games. Though I would like to see the offense flow a little bit more, such as Austin Eckler. He needs to have his rushing touchdown. Sony Michel could also get involved. And also, let's try to veer away from the up-tempo offense. I think the up-tempo offense shouldn't be used a whole lot, just unless, of course, everyone is like ready and willing. I understand that the up-tempo offense really tried to work in favor of the Chargers against the Chiefs, but not everyone was on the same page. And poor Gerald Everett, he's kind of, I wouldn't say he's looking like the Steve Bartman, but he was just gassed. So overall, it's just going to take mistake-free football to beat the Jaguars, and it's going to take possibly the defense just stepping up, just because one sack in a game is not going to cut it. 3 or more is probably the best case scenario. Well, and as for the Jaguars, something I kind of did not know of is that Trevor Lawrence has not won on the road. Well, granted, the Jaguars didn't even win a game on the road last year, just because. Or that was the previous year. That was 2020. Last year, Trevor Lawrence did not win a game on the road last year, and then this year they obviously lost to Washington in the first game, and then they beat Indianapolis in the previous game. So, in the last time a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback from the AFC South logged his first away win was when Peyton Manning did so in his 10th game against the Chargers. And ironically enough, Trevor Lawrence will be playing his 10th game as a quarterback and will be looking to win his first away game against the Chargers. So I'm hoping that does not come true, just because it would be so coincidental. But then again, Peyton Manning is not on the same page. Trevor Lawrence is not on the same page as Peyton Manning. Like, Peyton Manning was just freaking phenomenal. Trevor Lawrence is also freaking phenomenal, but I don't know if he's Peyton Manning phenomenal. He's just a great quarterback, though, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. And then Doug Peterson does Jacksonville a whole lot of favors. So I think it's going to be the battle of veteran head coach versus second-year head coach. So it's going to be a chess match between Peterson and Staley, but it's all about who makes the fewer mistakes. So that's basically going to be it for the NFL portion of the show. We got to jump to some NCAA football just because, well, USC has a big game this week, and I can't believe I'm even saying this in the same sentence. USC is playing Oregon State at Corvallis, and yeah, Oregon State's 3-0. I didn't think this would be as big of a game, but Oregon State is 3-0, and they're trying to be 4-0 for the first time in quite a while. It's been way too long since Oregon State was 4-0. So Oregon State does have quite the offense. I'm not going to dance around this, but granted, they haven't really beaten anyone of too much significance, but Fresno State's not a bad win, especially since they had to come back and win that one. And then Boise State's a pretty decent win as well. And the Fresno State one was on the road, by the way. We're not going to really delve deep into the Montana State one, but for USC, it's just all about them executing. And They did dominate last week against Fresno State, winning 45-17. Though it took a little while as they were up 27-10, or I'm sorry, 21-10. I'm sorry, I can't do my math correctly. But it felt like they weren't up by as much. It felt like they were only up 3. And then it took a little while for USC to kick it into high gear as they got their run game going outside of Caleb Williams, as Austin Jones and Travis Dye are both two really good running backs. Austin Jones obviously is the younger of the two, as Travis Dye is a veteran, having played at Oregon. And then Jones, I think, is doing well at the running back position. If USC can get their running game going more, it makes them a whole deadly team, just because obviously Jordan Addison and Mario Williams can really do damage in the air. But honestly, I think if they get the running game involved, it makes USC a whole better team. But overall, USC should be able, I feel USC could handle Oregon State. Normally when you go up to Corvallis, it's like windy and rainy and the weather is unpredictable. But at this time, in terms of Corvallis, it's normally like sunny, clear, and moderate. So I don't think weather's going to play in too much of a factor. For USC, however, I really think they can win this one. I wouldn't say convincingly, but I think they can, win this one in good fashion. I don't think they're going to get challenged, obviously. And Oregon State does have a good history of toppling USC, especially when they're highly ranked. But I think USC can handle the Beavers. It's not going to be easy, though. I really think that this is their first biggest challenge. I said that a couple weeks ago when they faced Stanford, but I really think that this is their true first challenge. Granted that Caleb Williams, I don't mean to jinx this, but granted Caleb Williams has yet to throw an interception, but I feel Caleb Williams can get the job done, and I think he can come up big. Last week, the run game was quite big for USC, and then the previous 2 games, it was the passing game. But now, it's going to look like USC is going to have to step up in all phases of the game. And especially their run defense. Their run defense has to be on point, just because Stanford gashed them a couple weeks ago, and then Fresno State also was kind of gashing them. The big momentum swing when it came to USC was obviously when Solomon Byrd registered a big sack on the Fresno State quarterback, and then that eventually took the Fresno State quarterback out the game, as Solomon Byrd didn't mean to hurt the quarterback, but that sack really set back Fresno State, and it took the wind out of their sails. That was kind of the biggest momentum boost, as USC, their defense is also going to have to come up big. As Corey Foreman, Solomon Byrd, they've been doing well. Solomon Byrd has been a complete surprise for me, and I think it's great to see him stepping up, and I really hope that he's able to step up his play even more, just because Oregon State is no joke. That 3-0 record is not anything to laugh at. Granted, they just beat Montana State, but USC was playing Rice. But overall, this is a Pac-12 game. USC has to come up big, and I really think they can do so. Will it be easy? Obviously not, but I think USC wins this one 40. Let's go 45. Yeah, I hate to put the score that high, but let's go 45-31. I think these are two high-flying offenses, and USC is going to have to really score a lot, but I think USC has what it takes. They know the magnitude of this game, just because if Oregon State does win this one, that really punches a hole in USC's not only national championship hopes, but their Pac-12 hopes. So I really think that Oregon State is going to prove to be a challenge, but I think USC can get the job done in all phases of the game. It's not going to be easy, but no game is supposed to be a gimme game. Like, every game is supposed to be a barn burner, and every game is supposed to basically be an all-out war. I mean, look at what Washington did against Michigan State. They were heavy underdogs, but then they were able to topple Sparty quite nicely. So that's a prime example of no team is safe when it comes to the Pac-12, including the Pac-12 teams of their own. So USC has to be careful here. Caleb Williams cannot take too many sacks. The O-line has kind of been my biggest concern just because they lost quite a bit of... They've been dealing with quite a bit of injuries, but I really think Caleb Williams, as long as he's smart with the ball, he should be fine. I don't even know if USC has turned the ball over once this season, but I actually don't want to find out if they have or not. So that's it for USC football. Jumping over to UCLA. Oh boy, UCLA. I had this weird sneaking suspicion UCLA was going to have a little bit of trouble with South Alabama. And they did. Fortunately for UCLA, they were able to inch out the win as they won off of a walk-off field goal as Nicholas Barr Mira kicked a chip shot field goal to give UCLA a 32-31 win. If UCLA had lost that one, I would have definitely been concerned about them. I'm still concerned about UCLA right now just because you look at their opponents. Outside of South Alabama, who has UCLA really beaten? Bowling Green, granted they struggled in the first half, but then got together in the second half. And then Alabama State, that's an FCS school. Nothing against FCS schools, of course, but it's like, yikes. UCLA, your strength of schedule looks pretty meh. It's not good. It's pretty bad. And then this week, UCLA plays an 0-3 Colorado team, and UCLA is 21.5-point favorites. I can't really say that UCLA should win this one quite easily, but if they have trouble with Colorado, they could forget about winning next Friday, because after they play Colorado, they have a Friday game at Washington, and Lord knows, not at Washington, at home against UCLA. This week, UCLA is on the road for the first time. Now, my thing is, the only way UCLA finds some way to lose this one is if they are so uncomfortable outside of the Rose Bowl, and I get everyone's concerns and they're whining about how UCLA should build an on-campus football stadium, but it's the Rose Bowl. Deal with it. And I'm pretty sure USC doesn't really have an on-campus. I'm fairly certain the Coliseum is not on campus when it comes to USC's campus. But I could be wrong. But back to UCLA. They should beat Colorado quite easily, especially since Colorado, oh my god. Who is Colorado even? I'm actually wondering who Colorado has lost to. They lost to Minnesota. Okay, well that's not too bad. I mean, Minnesota does have one of the top defenses in the nation. Air Force does have somewhat of a good offense, but it's like, it's still Air Force, dude. Like, what are you doing? And then TCU, which TCU hasn't really been good since heaven knows, as TCU has just played Tarleton last week. So for UCLA, if they're not winning this one by 3 scores or more, I can't really expect them to win against Washington. But I have UCLA beating Colorado. Let's go 35-10. I think 35-10 is a respectable score. I think UCLA barely covers, and I really think UCLA should win this one with not too much difficulty. Like, it's one thing with South Alabama just because the Sun Belt Conference is one of the more intriguing conferences, probably one of the more underrated non-Power 5 conferences. But it's like, how are you struggling to beat South Alabama? And how do you need a walk-off field goal in order to win? Like, make it make sense, UCLA. Figure it out, please. I just don't know. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson was solid. 3 touchdowns, 263 passing yards. The concern was Zach Charbonnet, as Zach Charbonnet I want to say got hurt, and he was limited in practice, according to James H. Williams on Twitter, the host of, what's his podcast name? What's Bruin podcast? Either way, he covers UCLA, and he basically, covers all of UCLA, and that's what he does. So for me, UCLA is going to win this one easy. If they can't win this one easy, then I have no words, and I am very concerned for UCLA going forward. And if they can't win that one, then UCLA should just pack it up and not even. They should probably forfeit the rest of the year. Okay, that's a little harsh. That's a little harsh to say that. But either way, they're not winning the Pac-12, that's for sure. So that'll do it for UCLA. Jumping over to San Diego State. Okay, so San Diego State. This team, I'll give you San Diego State the benefit of the doubt. They were heavy underdogs against Utah, and they tied 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. After that first quarter, Utah turned on the gas, and they gave San Diego State a whooping as they beat them 35-7. Obviously, this was expected just because it's Utah. Utah was not going to lose this one, as Utah basically laid down the wood against the Aztecs. And my goodness, Cam Rising is continuing to be probably debatably the best quarterback of the Pac-12, as San Diego State shuffled its quarterbacks around quite a whole lot, as they not only had Braxton Burmeister playing quarterback, but they had Kyle Crum playing quarterback. And get this, everybody, guys, listen. So you know how San Diego State has a tendency to run the ball more? San Diego State threw the ball 7 times. I'm sorry, they threw it 21 times and only had 7 completions, 5 of which went to Crum. I don't see how this team can function as an offense when they're just throwing the ball 21 times and garnering 60 passing yards altogether. The run game was not even better, as they had 113 rushing yards on 34 carries. This San Diego State offense is so inept. It makes me sick to my stomach looking at this offense. I have no idea what in God's green earth am I looking at when it comes to this offense. It's sickening. Rocky Long, please come back and save this program. It's so sad. It just is, dude. It's like, ew. Get out of here, San Diego State. Why are you, still heavily relying on running the ball? It's really sickening, if you ask me. It really makes me want to throw up, and I really don't know. It's frustrating to say the least. And I'm sure Aztec fans can agree, because it's one thing to lose to Arizona, but obviously getting trucked by Utah and only putting up 7 points, most of which probably was when Utah rested their starters after they were up 35-0 following 3 quarters, means that this San Diego State offense really struggles to actually put points on the board. And they really shouldn't have to bank on the defense to bail them out every single game, because that can't happen. So Brady Hoke really needs to switch things around, as well as Jeff Hecklinski, the offensive coordinator. So either San Diego State readies the ship and they actually do better when it comes to having an offensive game plan, or they're not going to actually do good when it comes to Mountain West Conference play, because I'm just going to say this right now, this team looks nowhere near the team that they were last year. Granted, they had better experienced quarterbacks with Jordan Brookshire and a few others, but my goodness, dude, it's what are you doing, man? And to make things worse, you know how UCLA has a Friday game against Washington? San Diego State has a Friday game too, and they play Boise State. It's at Boise State, by the way, and we all know Boise State is looking for revenge against the Aztecs. Like, I don't even know what game is going to be guaranteed. Like, Fresno State is a tough customer. San Jose State could be tough. Air Force looks legit. I'm not sure about Hawaii. Nevada, I'm not sure about, but I can tell you that Fresno State and San Jose State, Air Force, as well as Boise State are going to be some tough customers for the Aztecs this year. If the Aztecs do not get their offense together, because if they don't, then I don't even know if this team can make a bowl game. Like, their only win is against an FCS school in Idaho State. That does not scream a good team, if you ask me. So for San Diego State, they really have to figure it out, because this week they play Toledo. They're back at Snapdragon Stadium as they play Toledo. This is going to be interesting, to say the least. Toledo is 2-1, and they're actually 3-point favorites. I really hope that, like, look at this Toledo offense. Look at how they're producing more and more. Look at how they're able to produce more offensively. Their quarterback has 541 yards. The running back has 208 yards. Birdmeister only has 2 touchdowns and 1 interception in terms of passing. And they have no rushing touchdowns. This screams that the run game is getting more and more obvious from San Diego State. Like, the fact that San Diego State does not want to change the fact that they are a run-heavy team is just disgusting, dude. Like, this is not what Rocky Long stepped down for. So, please figure it out, San Diego State. As for the game, I really don't know. I really am concerned about this San Diego State offense. This makes Iowa look more competent offensively. And that says a lot right there. So Iowa and South Dakota State, at least. But as for San Diego State versus Toledo, if they're going to win, they're going to have to win with defense. And I feel San Diego State can win, but it's like I'm losing more and more faith in the offense. I think San Diego State wins this one 17-14. If San Diego State wins, they're going to win with defense and probably special teams. But for me, defense has to step up. Offense has to at least produce 1 touchdown. If the defense can produce a touchdown, then so be it. But that's like once in a blue moon. Like, Toledo would have to be very careless to letting that happen defensively for San Diego State. But 17-14 is probably my best bet. If not, I'd probably say like 13-10. But either way, San Diego State cannot allow Toledo to score over 20. Looking at Toledo as a whole, they are 2-1. They just got trounced and throttled by Ohio State. And then their 2 wins are against UMass and Long Island, which I don't really think anyone's going to ride home about. But it is what it is, and yeah, we just got to move on and hope that Toledo just has a bad game. But I think San Diego State wins, believe it or not, 17-14. I think 17-14 is respectable. I highly doubt Toledo does not get held to just 1 touchdown. I think they get at least 2 offensively. But for me, San Diego State's offense, they need to be at least competent. And playing Ohio State, it really does have Toledo looking more at what they can improve on from their loss. Just because Ohio State obviously is a talented team, but for San Diego State, it's a massive drop-off from facing Ohio State. So we'll see what happens with the Aztecs this week. This is their last week before they open up Mountain West Conference play against all of their opponents. It starts with Boise State on the road, then Hawaii at home, then Nevada on the road, then Fresno State on the road, then UNLV at home, and then San Jose State at home, then at New Mexico State, and then San Diego State closes out the regular season against Air Force. So for San Diego State, it's basically they're in must-win mode now, just because if they can't win this one, then they're not winning the Mountain West Conference. They won't even be in the championship game. That's just as simple as it's going to be. I really am struggling to find the positives of the San Diego State team, so we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for the college. Oh, no. Psych. That's not going to be it for the college football portion of this show. I forgot to discuss San Diego, as the Toreros got trounced by UC Davis 43-13. I had a feeling that would happen just because Davis is probably the best 0-2. They're the best 0-2 FCS football team going into that game, as they narrowly lost against South Dakota State, and they played Cal, which it's Cal. So this week, San Diego is on the road against Valparaiso. That one's going to be on ESPN3, believe it or not. Valpo is also 1-2, like the Toreros. I feel, looking at this at a glance, San Diego should be able to air the ball out more. And Valpo looks like they're not really the best offensively in terms of throwing the ball, but don't let that fool you. I think Valpo can give San Diego some problems, but we'll see what happens. I feel San Diego State wins that one, or San Diego wins that one quite nice. And then as for Cal Poly, they unfortunately suffered a loss last week, losing to South Dakota 38-21. This week they are back home against Sacramento State. Sac State is 2-0, as Cal Poly will look to try to get back on track. Sacramento State has beaten Utah State 56-33, while they beat Northern Iowa 37-21. This week will be a huge challenge defensively for Cal Poly, as they're going to really need to slow down not only the run game, but they're also going to have to slow down Sacramento State's top receiver, Marshall Martin. But if they do so, then they could narrowly escape with the win. But that's a big could. So we'll see. So that's going to do it. Now it's going to do it for the college football portion of the show. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got some MLB and NWSL and MLS action to discuss. Then we have the Dum Dum of the Week. Keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Some say that Indiana is just a flyover state. Flatlands and cornfields, barns and country roads. What if I told you Indiana is the crossroads of America? What if I told you in all other states, basketball is just basketball? In Indiana, basketball is life. crowded high school basketball gyms on a Friday night, and every barn with a basketball rim and a frayed, worn-out net. If you're interested in the heartbeat of America, and if you're interested in sports, if you have Hoosier running through your veins, the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X is made for you. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Each and every week, the Crossroad Pod covers all of Indiana sports. The pride of the horseshoe of the Indianapolis Colts. The blue-collar, bold swagger of the Indiana Pacers. The relentless pursuit of the sixth banner for the Indiana Hoosiers. The swing of the hammer of the Purdue Boilermakers. The swoop of the Cardinals of Ball State. The summoning of the echoes of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The growl of the Bulldogs of Butler. The intensity of an Indiana fever. The chop of the Indianapolis Indians. At the Crossroads Pod, if it is Indiana, we've got you covered. More than cornfields. More than country back roads. The Crossroads of America. Join me, Aaron X, every week. It's nothing but net.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely do check out all of our amazing shows, such as Sin City Sports with Cale Henderson, as well as the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X. Both those shows are relatively new in terms of their date, but I honestly think that they're both going great as of late. Check out all of our shows. We have shows dedicated to certain sports. We have shows dedicated to certain cities and certain regions. Overall, iSports Radio has it all for you. And they've also have a blog post. They have a blog site, and basically you could check out all of our amazing blogs and stories. So definitely do check out everything iSports Radio. Remember, iSportsRadio.com is where it's all at. And don't forget the Patreon link at the top. Only starts out at $5 a month, which is basically the price of what you can get at like McDonald's for like a Big Mac or so. Anyway, enough about that. Let's jump back into the SoCal sports action. We'll jump to some MLB just because we finally have to put the Angels to rest. Or in this case, we have to send the Angels back to the sky as... Yay, the Angels are kind of finally eliminated from playoff contention, and this was evident back when they had that long losing streak where they lost to the Phillies of all teams. So the Angels have finally been relieved of their pain as they now have been eliminated. This past week, it was kind of an interesting week, as last weekend they took 3 out of 4 against the Mariners. Last Friday they won 8-7. Last Saturday they won 2-1. Last Sunday they won 5-1, and then this past Monday they lost 9-1. And then this past week they only won 1 out of 3 against the Rangers. They won the first game 5-2, lost the second game 7-2, and then lost the third game 5-3. So this weekend, the Angels are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Twins are vying for a playoff spot as this series is a 3-game series, unlike the Mariners where they had a 4-game series, which led all the way till Monday. So the Angels will be playing all the way up till Sunday, and then the Angels will return home to take on the Athletics after a day off on Monday. It'll be from Tuesday all the way to Thursday, and then next Friday all the way to next Sunday, they play the Texas Rangers. And then the Angels close out the season against the Oakland A's at Oakland, which will probably be the last time we could be seeing the Athletics at Oakland, just because there have been speculations that the Athletics will be moving to Las Vegas or something along those lines. Either way, the Angels are nearing the end of a very long season, and boy howdy, finally the Angels will be able to end the season. It's just been such a horrible year for them. It started off so promising, and then it just went down the toilet. And once you're down the toilet, you eventually reach the end, and bloop. That's that. So that's that for the Angels. Jumping over to the Dodgers. The Dodgers obviously clinched the NL West, and they're trying to clinch the entire National League in general. They're trying to get there as like I said, they've clinched the division. They have 104 wins, and they're on pace to eclipse probably like somewhere in the 110s in terms of wins. As the Dodgers have 104 wins currently right now, and it's going to be great to see what this team looks like come postseason time. And I really hope that they're able to put it all together. So this past week, they had a 5-game series against the Diamondbacks. They had a doubleheader on Tuesday, and then basically they played the Diamondbacks on 4 days, but on 5 different occasions. They won the first game 5-2, won the second game 6-5, and then the second half of the doubleheader, the Dodgers lost that one 5-2. They lost on Wednesday 6-1, and then the Dodgers had a walk-off win courtesy of Mookie Betts on yesterday 3-2. And then last weekend, the Dodgers swept the Giants. It doesn't seem to get old when it comes to the Dodgers sweeping the Giants, as last Friday, the Dodgers beat the Giants 5-0. Then they beat the Giants 7-2, and then they beat the Giants in 10 innings 4-3. So the Giants are just about ready to join the Angels and Athletics on the California couch of shame. Sorry to all Giants fans, but not really sorry. So anyway, the Dodgers will remain at the Chavez Ravine to take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Funny how we have 2 LA teams playing the Cardinals in one weekend. Anyway, so the Dodgers taking on the Cardinals. This is an interesting matchup just because the Cardinals look like a potential playoff team as well. They have yet to clinch the playoff spot, but they are closing in on clinching the NL Central. And this could be a possible playoff matchup come the playoffs, as the Dodgers and Cardinals have a 3-game series against one another, going from today, being Friday, all the way to Sunday. And then following a day off on Tuesday, the Dodgers will be hitting the road to Petco Park to take on the San Diego Padres. That's a crucial series for the Padres. More on that later. But the Dodgers play on Tuesday all the way to Thursday. And then the Rockies and the Dodgers face one another at the Chavez Ravine in a 6-game series as, yikes, 6-game series? What? That's crazy. It goes all the way from next Friday all the way to Wednesday, and all the games are going to be played at the Chavez Ravine. No doubleheaders, surprisingly, which I think is rather mind-boggling, because you have one game on Friday, and then you have a game on Saturday, then a game on Sunday, then Monday, then Tuesday, and then Wednesday. That's 6 games. That's crazy. I don't know what the schedule is thinking, but boy howdy. The Rockies just got eliminated as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers started resting their starters. But I digress on that. So, looking at the National League in general, the Dodgers are 9.5 games ahead of the New York Mets, and it's only a matter of time before the Dodgers clinch the National League as a whole. As how many games do the Dodgers have? They're not too far off from clinching the NL West, as they have 7 more games in the month of September, and then they also have 5 more games left in the month of October. So overall, it should be, Dodgers are inching closer and closer. They should be just as close as LAFC was close to clinching the Western Conference, or the top spot in the Western Conference. But either way, I'm just hoping the Dodgers are able to convincingly win in terms of the playoffs. Well, not convincingly win, but just win in the playoffs in general. Just because I don't want them to have the whole Peyton Manning experience, where they're good in the regular season, and then when it comes to the playoffs, they look like complete doo-doo. We can't have no more doo-doo around here. No more doo-doo here. Like, LA is the city of champions, not the city of doo-doo. But more on that later. Just kidding. Not more on that later. So that's that for the Dodgers side of things. Jumping over to the Padres side of things. Okay, so the Padres, they're still in the playoff hunt, and they're actually in the second wild card spot, as they're actually a half a game ahead of the Phillies in that aspect, which is quite good. Like, it improves their chances of getting a wild card spot, which is good, and improves their seeding. But it also means that they could be facing the Dodgers sooner rather than later. I'd rather see the Dodgers and the Padres face each other in the National League Championship game. Blah. So for the Padres, they took 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals, which is quite impressive. They shut out the Cardinals on Tuesday and Wednesday, 5-0 and 1-0. And then they nearly lost to the Cardinals 5-4, which is a bummer, but it is what it is. And then their 4-game series, the Padres took 3 out of 4 against the Diamondbacks. They at Arizona, as they lost the first game 4-0 last Thursday, won the second game last Friday 12-3, won the second game on Saturday 2-0, and then they won the fourth game 6-1 on Sunday. This week, the Padres are heading down to the Rocky Mountains to take on Colorado, as they play Friday all the way till Sunday. And then, like I said, they play the Dodgers at Petco Park. Then they have a very interesting game. They have a 3-game series against the White Sox next Friday all the way to next Sunday. And then they close out the season with a 3-game series against the Giants. The Giants could possibly play spoiler if they play their cards right, but I don't see how the Padres lose to the Rockies, and then they lose to the White Sox, and then they lose to the Giants. The only team I see the Padres getting trouble from is probably the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are on a warpath to the point where they really need to close out the top spot in the National League, and if they do so, awesome. As the wildcard race is starting to thin out quite quickly, as the only teams remaining in playoff contention outside of the top 3, being the Braves, Padres, and Phillies, are the Brewers and the Giants. It's only a matter of time before the Giants, unfortunately, meet the fate of being eliminated from the playoffs. Go figure. That team was really good last year, and now they look completely the opposite. And then the Brewers are kind of the biggest threat to the Phillies or the Padres. But overall, I think it's going to boil down to the Padres. Like, Atlanta's already clinched a spot in the playoffs. Whether they win the NL East or not, the Braves are still a threat, just because, remember, they are the reigning champions, and they're just so good. And everyone thought they were going to take a step back without Freddie Freeman, but it's been completely the opposite. And then the Padres, obviously, despite not having Fernando Tatis Jr., they're really showing a lot of grit and resolve. Manny Machado has obviously been great. It's just all about Juan Soto getting on that same page as well. So we'll see what happens when it comes to the Padres in their last few weeks, in their last couple weeks, as this is basically gut check time for them. So we'll see if the Padres can close out the wild card spot sooner rather than later. So that is that for the MLB portion of the show. Let's jump on over to some MLS action. So LAFC has clinched the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, which is awesome sauce, and thank goodness they were able to do so. They convincingly beat Houston, as they had no problems against them, as they wound up winning 3-1. That was kind of expected, just because, well, it's the Houston Dash. Are we really going to be intimidated by them? No. We're not going to be intimidated by the Houston Dash, one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. So LAFC only has 2 matches remaining, and legit, they could rest their starters, as their next game is not for another couple weeks, as they play the Portland Timbers, which it's a Sunday game. They should be able to win that one on paper, but again, if they're resting starters, look for Portland to come out hungry. And then their last game is back home at the Bank of California Stadium against Nashville. Just like Portland, expect Nashville to come out hungry just because they could be playing a possible playoff matchup or a playoff preview. But overall, it's going to be quite funny to see, or not funny to see if LAFC rests their starters. If they do, then that would be the wise choice. Whether they win or lose, the only magnitude of losing would be losing out on the Commissioner's Shield or whatever that little token is called. It's whenever you have the most points in the MLS, you get this little shield. I think it's called the Commissioner's Shield. I'm just going to call it the Commissioner's Shield. And LAFC would win that little token of having the most points, which would be great for them, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't win your first MLS Cup. But overall, LAFC is looking more stacked by the minute. I'd be surprised to see if this team does not... I really want to see this team actually doing well. Especially come playoff time. Playoff time is when it truly matters most. Speaking of playoff time, it's kind of playoff time for the Galaxy as they actually are coming off of a win most recently as well, as they beat Colorado 4-1, as they basically came out guns a-blazing in that game. It's good because they need all the wins they can get, because if not, then they can kiss the playoffs goodbye. So Saturday, being tomorrow, the Galaxy are hitting the road to Northern California to take on San Jose. Huge game right there just because they're tied for that 7th spot in the Western Conference with, I want to say it's Real Salt Lake. Yes, Real Salt Lake. And they could improve their playoff spot as they're only 2 points behind Minnesota, which I'd like to see how Minnesota does, as on Tuesday, Minnesota plays... Well, not Tuesday. Next game for Minnesota won't be until next weekend as they play San Jose at San Jose. So if San Jose could do us a solid and lose tomorrow but beat Minnesota, that would be swell. And then the Galaxy close out at home against Real Salt Lake next weekend. And then, they have a game on Sunday against Houston. So, here's the thing for the Galaxy. Houston is definitely beatable, yes. But as for Real Salt Lake, that game could not be any more bigger than it needs to be. Real Salt Lake is right on the coattails of the Galaxy, and a win for the Galaxy would basically put them in such a great position ahead of Real Salt Lake. If Real Salt Lake... I don't know if Real Salt Lake has any more games going forward following... It doesn't look like they do, just because Tuesday they don't play, next Friday they don't play. So Real Salt Lake only has their Saturday game, and then they also have their final game of the season against Portland. And Real Salt Lake's also on a 2-game losing streak. So these last 3 games are so crucial for the Galaxy. They have to win at San Jose. Basically, if they can't beat San Jose, then I don't know if they could even survive against Real Salt Lake. Because looking at the table, the Galaxy, to their amusement, they actually have played 1 fewer game than Real Salt Lake. So, technically, the Galaxy do control their destiny. All they just need to do is they just have to win this game, and then they have the Dash as their final game of the season, and then they have Real Salt Lake. So the excuse level has finally reached 0. I don't want to hear any more excuses. The only excuse that the Galaxy get a pass on is that they don't have one of their top players, as this was actually reported by Damian Calhoun, one of the LA Galaxy's beat reporters, as well as Angel City beat reporter, as the Galaxy will not have, according to Damian Calhoun, they will not have Doug Costa, who will miss one game due to last week's red card. So that's big right there. Having Doug Costa would have been huge, just because he's one of the Galaxy's key players. So for them, the Galaxy are just going to have to make it do what it do without him. So we'll see what happens with the Galaxy going forward into this big game on Saturday. They have to beat the Quakes in order to look at Real Salt Lake. If they could have a 3-point lead ahead of Real Salt Lake going into next week, that would be crucial, just because it would put them one step away from clinching a spot in the playoffs. And I would also want to say that winning this week and winning next week would basically lock up a playoff spot for them. But in order to do so, they have to win tonight. Like, they can't look ahead all the way to next weekend. Otherwise, that could be a potential trap game. Like, San Jose is the biggest trap game just because of rivalries and SoCal versus NorCal. You can't beat it. So we'll see what happens when it comes to the Quakes versus the Galaxy. But overall, I'm feeling confident in the Galaxy. On paper, they should win this game. But knowing the Galaxy, they're going to have bad goaltending luck. So that is going to do it for the MLS portion of the show. Let's jump to some NWSL action, just because that season is winding down as well, and it's getting quite tight in the race. And there was actually an NWSL article that basically explained every scenario of every playoff team, as it said that the Wave FC's playoff chances are definitely shining bright, but at this point, it's kind of, they're playing for the commissioners. What I forget what the token is for as well, but I think it's also a commissioner shield. They're playing just for the commissioners. They're playing for the tops for the most points in the NWSL. You know what I mean. So for Wave FC, last weekend was probably the biggest weekend for them, as they managed to beat their crosstown rival, Angel City, by a score of 1-0. And it was a huge win for them, just because the previous time Wave FC actually lost to Angel City 2-1, and I was fearing that was going to be that was what was going to possibly cost them a spot in the playoffs. But winning that game could not have come at a better time, just because they're now inching closer and closer. And if the playoffs start today, Wave FC would be the number 2 seed, as they're right behind the Portland Thorns, who just keep finding ways to come back harder, better, faster, stronger. And yes, I had to basically utilize a Kanye West reference, or whoever originally did that song. Portland did beat Racing Louisville 3-0 last week, which is not really surprising. And then looking at Portland's remainder of their schedule, they have the Chicago Red Stars at home, and then they're on the road against Gotham, which I'd be surprised if Portland lost that one. But for Wave FC, they are hitting the road to the Sunshine State, or the so-called Sunshine State, being Florida, when they play Orlando FC, or Orlando Pride. So looking at Orlando in the NWSL standings, they're not quite eliminated from playoff contention, but their playoff hopes look... I don't even think they can make the playoffs. Yeah, at this point, Orlando cannot make the playoffs, just because even if they were to win their last 2 games, Orlando would still only have 27 points. So they're basically facing a team that's playing for pride. Get it? Orlando Pride. They're playing for pride. Ba-bum. As we welcome Aaron X to the show, or in the live chat room, he says, "Hope you're having a great show, my friend." Thanks, Aaron. Just about ready to wrap up the sports portion and then take a quick little commercial break. But back to NWSL action. Wave FC has to win this one, just because on paper, Wave FC is nearing a spot in the playoffs. If they win this week, they're basically in. And then if Angel City somehow loses, then basically Wave FC is in, as well as OL Reign, as well as the Houston Dash and the Kansas City Current. But overall, winning this game would definitely be huge for them. It would also improve their odds of getting a top 2 spot. And remember, top 6 teams make the playoffs, and then the 1 and 2 seed get a bye into the semifinals. So for Portland and for San Diego, that's basically where they're at. In terms of San Diego, I think they're finally over the loss to Washington. I really just don't understand how they were able to lose, how they lost to Washington. It's like, good Lord, have mercy. So Wave FC also plays the North Carolina Courage to close out the season. North Carolina is still technically in the playoff running, as they could win out their final 2 games of the season, as North Carolina has Gotham and then they have San Diego Wave. But then after that, it's basically you're going to have to hope for all the other teams somehow losing. So for Wave FC, they basically control their playoff destiny, and if they play their cards right, they could be winning the Commissioner's Prize or the Commissioner's Trophy based on the number of points won. But overall, it's going to have to take a full-on effort. And if they play like they did against Angel City and they just don't underestimate anybody, they'll be just fine when it comes to the rest of their games. Just because I definitely think Wave FC is a great team. It's just all about them winning when it truly matters. It's like San Diego sports. It's like Wave FC is basically San Diego's best chance at winning a pro sports championship. If they can't win a pro sports championship with Wave FC, I don't know if they're going to be doing so sometime down the road. I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but it's like I'm more concerned for San Diego sports as the day goes by, but we'll see. So that's that for Wave FC. Jumping over to Angel City. Poor Angel City. Losing that game to Wave FC was the worst thing that could happen. But they did prove themselves against Washington Spirit, as they won that on Wednesday 2-1. They almost wound up losing just because Trinity Rodman, the daughter of Dennis Rodman, she nearly helped Washington get back into the game. Washington eventually, let's take it from the top. Angel City was up 2-0. They got their goals, I want to say, in the first half. And then Washington got a goal in the second half. And then Trinity Rodman was getting checked out by the trainers. She came back in. She nearly tied the game, but Angel City came up big, and they wound up winning the rest of the way. So Angel City this week, they play Racing Louisville at the Bank of California Stadium on Sunday. And then to close out the season, they play the Chicago Red Stars. I'm still going to call it Chicago Red Stars versus Angel City for the last playoff spot. Book it. But as for Louisville this week, they should be able to beat Louisville just because Louisville is the second worst team in the conference, or in the league, that is. But remember what happened with Washington versus San Diego. Washington was the second worst team in the league, and they wound up beating Wave FC, and they had nothing to play for. So Angel City just cannot underestimate Racing Louisville. If they do, then they don't deserve the playoffs. And they also got to remember, if they lose, Wave FC gets in, Portland gets in, pretty much, and then I think the Thorns get in regardless. Just because even if Portland does somehow manage to lose out, and somehow they drop all the way down to 6, I don't think they're moving out of the top 6. So technically I think Portland is in, and then everyone else is not quite in just yet. But an Angel City loss basically gives Wave FC and OL Reign the spot in the playoffs. And I also think that maybe Houston and Kansas City also get in as well, just because Angel City has 29 points, and Houston and Kansas City have 33. And even if they don't get any points this week, then Angel City would not be able to catch up to them. The only team that that Angel City would be able to pass would be Chicago. And Chicago plays Portland, and I'm fairly certain Angel City is hoping for Portland to win that game. So the only way that Angel City gets eliminated from the playoffs is if they lose and Chicago wins. And if that happens, then that's just a heartbreaking way to see their season come to an end, especially since Angel City has been so resilient without Kristen Press, their top player. But overall, winning against Louisville would be huge. They have to win against them, otherwise they're in grave danger of missing the playoffs. So that is that for the NWSL portion of the show. We'll take ourselves one last commercial break. When we come back, we got the Dum Dum of the Week award. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this quick commercial.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Just had to take that quick little commercial break because it is time for the Dum Dum of the Week award. The Dum Dum of the Week award basically goes out to someone or something that does something really dumb, and no one is safe from this award. And it could be as small as, saying that pineapple belongs on pizza, all the way up to basically getting in trouble legally. But I have 2 Dum Dums of the Week award, and I don't know how... This is probably the smaller of the 2, just because this Dum Dum of the Week award isn't as big as the next one is going to be. So, the first one, okay, everyone... No, Aaron, you are not the Dum Dum of the Week award recipient. Don't worry. So, we all know everyone here has differing opinions, and I respect everyone's opinions. I'm not going to bash everyone's opinion. But what I saw, I want to say was earlier in the week, I was a little surprised to see this. So basically on Twitter, Sean Merriman, the former the former Charger, he basically likes to voice his opinion, and he sometimes likes to troll other teams, mainly the Raiders. He one time called the Raiders stadium a strip club or a Death Star. That is far from the truth. But anyway, Sean Merriman, okay, what he said kind of baffled me. And I understand where some people basically come at this, but he says dipping wings in ranch is bad. It's disgusting. Oh. Okay, like I said, this is basically a differing opinion on this. Some people like to dip ranch in blue cheese dressing. I personally prefer... I've never been a blue cheese guy, so a blue cheese ranch dressing guy, let alone a blue cheese guy in general. But I've always been more of a dipping your wings in ranch type of guy. So I don't really want to give out a Dum Dum of the Week award just because someone has a differing opinion. But what Sean Merriman basically said, I'm going to read this quote for quote. I really want to not butcher the quote of this, but Here's what Sean Merriman said on Twitter, which riled up some Wings in Ranch fans. He said this. He said, and I quote, he says, ranch with wings is disgusting. End of story. Okay, here's where I disagree with what he said. He says it's disgusting. It's not disgusting. I've seen people dip their wings in ranch multiple times. It's like, how is it disgusting, man? So it's like, I understand if you said dipping your wings in blue cheese is much better than dipping your wings in ranch is better, but saying dipping your ranch with wings is disgusting, I don't agree with that by 1 second. And someone by the name of Renee Paquette said, blue cheese is for the devil, ranch till the day I die. And then Sean Merriman said, Renee, this is illegal in 9 states. I don't know which states, but I'm sure it is. Well, how do you know it's actually illegal? Like, what if it's not illegal? And this, because of what Sean Merriman said, he actually inspired a diehard Chargers fan, Jen Mills, to create a poll. What do you prefer with your wings? Ranch, blue cheese, or other? I don't know what else you're dipping your... I don't know what else you're dipping your ranch, your wings in, but Aaron says ranch and wings are like peas and carrots. I imagine that means they're inseparable because they're like basically they're basically inseparable. But either way, the polls were on this from Jen Mills, the diehard Chargers fan. Out of 925 votes, because she has a big following, 66% are saying people would prefer ranch with their wings, 22% are saying blue cheese with wings, and then 12% are other. I still don't understand what the other category is. Like, what else are you dipping your wings in? What? Now, if it's like plain wings, I could see it. I could understandably seeing it like in buffalo sauce, but it's like normally people get like buffalo wings and then they just dip it in ranch or blue cheese or whatever you like to call it. And then Sean Merriman quote tweeted the poll. He says, "I can't believe these results. LOL." I'm not surprised to see ranch being like ahead of the pack when it comes to this poll, but honestly, I don't agree with Sean Merriman. I think wings with ranch is delicious. I don't think it's disgusting. What is disgusting about it? Like, please explain, Sean Merriman. Like, please explain. Make it make sense to me, my guy. Like, I don't want to give him the Dum Dum of the Week just because he's just voicing an opinion, but it pains me to do this. Sean Merriman is the Dum Dum of the Week for basically saying ranch with wings is disgusting. So, forgive me, Sean Merriman, if you happen to be listening, but you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
So that is the Dum Dum of the Week award number 1. Now, the Dum Dum of the Week award number 2, I don't want to, basically open up a rabbit hole with this one, but this Dum Dum of the Week award, the second Dum Dum of the Week award, I really got to basically go in on this one. So, as we all know, Los Angelinos, even though I'm not from Los Angeles sports fans do not like Boston sports. They now have another reason why to hate Boston sports quite well, as this is kind of it's not really the most touchiest subject, but my man Ime Udoka, the Boston Celtics coach, who led the Celtics to the NBA championship, is now suspended for the entire season as basically what is basically he basically cheated on someone, on staff members. He cheated on his wife and on staff members, and now he is basically getting suspended, which is like, yikes. It's like, first of all, why would you cheat on your wife? Second of all, why would you cheat on a staff member? And third, it's like, why? Why would you do this in general? Why are you keeping your nose... Why are you basically just brown-nosing yourself to this? It's like, why would you do this? And Nia Long is apparently Ime Udoka's fiancé. So it's like, why would you even... Why? Make it make sense, Ime Udoka. Why would you do this, my dude? It's so frustrating. It's like, and they share a 10-year-old son, and they've been engaged since 2015, and he manages to cheat on her on a staff member of the Boston Celtics. I don't know about the whole getting suspended when it comes to the whole entire NBA season, but it's like, why? It just makes zero sense. It just really, I don't understand. Why would you cheat on someone? I would not be surprised if Ime Udoka gets dumped, like if Nia Long basically just pulls out the divorce papers. But this is bad, dude. This is really bad, as he had an intimate relationship with a female member of the Boston Celtics' staff, sources told ESPN on Thursday. It's just bad, my dude. And now Joe Mazzulla is going to be the interim coach for the Celtics. He's lucky he doesn't get fired, but this is just a bad look on him, and it's a bad look on the Boston Celtics. And Boston Celtics, well, not just Boston Celtics, the Boston sports in general basically came under fire when Alex Cora cheated with the whole sign stealing scandal, but that's for another day. But my man Ime Udoka was basically cheating on his fiancée while they had a son. Like, how? I just don't understand why you would want to do that. It's just bad, dude. It's just a bad look for him, and it's just bad for their kid, because now their kid is caught in the middle of this crossfire. He's only 10. Ime Udoka literally opened up a rabbit hole with this, and this is not how the Celtics need to get 3-pointers. He's okay, that was bad, but honestly, it's just bad. It's just not a good look for him, and honestly, he deserves to be suspended the entire season. Okay, maybe not for the whole season, but for this whole thing, for this whole cheating on his wife, and for cheating on his wife with a member of the Celtics. Like, I don't know who the role position girl was, but still cheating on someone of the franchise, within the franchise, it's just not good. Like, it's just bad. So, Ime Udoka, you cheated on Nia Long. You basically cheated the entire franchise, and you've brought an embarrassment to Boston sports. While I could laugh at you and just basically just say, that's just really dumb. While I basically could beat up a dead horse for much longer, there's nothing more to say. You are the Dum Dum of the Week Award #2 recipient. And honestly, it goes more than just being dumb. This is just illogical. It just has zero sense. So, Ime Udoka, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award recipient #2.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. I am no guidance counselor, and I am no couples counselor, but all I can tell you is that cheating is a big fat no-no. And now you have cost yourself not only your relationship with your fiancé, but you have cost yourself possibly your reputation, and you've basically I wouldn't say it's cost him his job, but it's basically cost him his reputation. And now he's basically, a lot of people have now lost respect for him. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Without any further delay, let's get on out of here, because I got to get me something to eat. You dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Big shout out to the live chat room, being Aaron X, as well as Larry B and David Crooks. I appreciate you all tuning in. Side note for next week. Next week, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show will be going on next Thursday at noon Pacific time. Well, next Friday will be Set Point. Set Point will be celebrating its 3-year anniversary, while SoCal Supreme Sports Show will be taking on the Thursday slot. If not, I'll probably move it to maybe Saturday, but it's looking like Thursday is going to be the day for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Until then, you all have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy the Friday. You all have earned it. Looks like it's not going to be hot for too much long, as it is starting to pick up a little, but it's not going to be as blistering hot as it was in the past. So, until then, keep it cool, enjoy the fall, have yourself a great weekend, and I will see you next week for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace!